Hey,
Hey,
there he is.
Glyn.
How you feeling?
Hey, I'm doing fine, man. I'm just happy to see somebody in Manchester, England wearing a New York hat.
There it is.
So, you good?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Good,
Awesome.
really
What
good.
the Hey, so how was church?
Great, great. We had a professional, a Manchester United player got saved yesterday at church.
Oh my gosh. Maybe we
Yeah.
should send some Oakland Raiders over.
Well, yeah.
That's
I don't know what to
amazing.
do now. I don't know whether or not to pray that he succeeds or not because it's obviously the wrong football team, isn't it?
Yeah, McCourt's not going to be a happy guy. So, hey,
I
I
know.
got a
Yeah.
quick. I've been calling some guys I like a lot that are buddies and asking them the same question. The this whole knee replacement thing. It's like pain, agony, crazy.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing better than I thought I was going to be doing, but it was still like major. And I started thinking about, like what's the opposite of pain, and it's joy. You know,
Yeah.
And so I thought I'm going to do a deep dive on joy because I think it's a bigger deal. It's a bigger deal to God than it certainly is to most Christians. And and so I've been calling some guys that I think live with it and do a good job dispensing it and going, when you're wrecked, and I was wrecked earlier this week. When you're
Yeah.
wrecked, what do you do to get joy? What do you do to get your joy back? How do you bounce back?
Well, I mean, that's a brilliant question. Actually, I know that last year, sort of this time last year, actually, I came back from California. I got diagnosed with shingles, and
Oh,
at the same time, got some really sad news come across our table, and which actually made both Sophia and I sad for a little while. 10 days, 2 weeks, and so joy was a real thing that we had to actually come to grips with again and
oh, no
try to
kidding. And then
understand what it was.
I remember, because we're pretty close. I remember Soph going. I had this sleeping thing. I couldn't sleep forever.
Yeah, 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 and you know what? I think we came down to the understanding that there's a real difference. I think some people confuse happiness and joy.
Yeah.
They're actually two different things, aren't they? That happiness comes from what happens in your life, based on what's happening determines
Huh.
how you feel. But joy is actually something completely deeper. And I
Hmm.
think actually that joy and contentment go a little bit hand in hand. So the Apostle Paul actually talks about it in the Bible when he says, I've learned to be content, whatever the circumstance, whether well fed, hungry, clothed, naked, whether I've got knee surgery or not, whether I've got shingles or, I'm healthy, whether I've heard good news or bad news. And joy is that thing that I think ultimately comes from actually pressing into God and actually pressing into God's presence.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
which I think that then what God does, He gives that supernatural kind of joy, which is really weird.
Yeah.
I think the Bible talks about the peace of God, which transcends all understanding. It doesn't make sense here, and when you look at it
Yep.
in paper, everything around you can actually, in one sense, be falling apart, but you can
Yep.
have that peace and a
Yep.
joy in God that goes really, really deep. And
Yep.
I think that only really comes from being found in the presence of God.
Yep.
And I know that for me, this time last year, when I was sick and we heard some really bad news, and then 5 years ago when my wife was going through that sleeplessness issue, doctors said depression's trying to grip your soul, and
Hmm.
different things like that. The only way we actually could remedy that was to really press into God and find a joy that came in that can only be found in God's presence. Sounds like a really spiritual answer, but I guess it is a spiritual answer to a real natural problem in
No,
terms of
it's funny as I was telling
joy.
him. Oh, yeah, it's funny. I don't even. I don't know how to phrase this, but I was talking to a friend of mine, kind of going through some stuff, and I finally said to this guy, I said, I know this can sound trite and stupid, but you just need a word from God. I mean, you at some point you have to hear from God,
Yeah,
And I was living in Chicago, which is enough to kind of wreck your joy anyway. But I was living in Chicago, and I just bummed about a whole bunch of stuff, and had been around for a while, and they had this all black 200 voice choir from Chicago come into this thing I was at and sing. And they sung this song, Put It All in His Hands. And the words to the song were "Put It All in His Hands," and that song
Yeah.
lasted like 15 minutes. And
Yeah.
they just said over and over and over again. And it was like finally, I think they sung it so long. God finally said to me, "Excuse me, put it in my hands," and I
Yeah.
actually did. And I was nothing changed except me. But it was. I just had to kind of hear from God.
Yeah.
Nothing else changed, but somehow I walked out of there in some way mysteriously different. So
Yeah. It's a constant daily thing, isn't it?
yeah,
I know that psychologists talk about something called ANTS, ANTS, which are automated negative thoughts, and the
well
idea
that's good.
being that if
Whoa, that's good. ANT
automated negative
negative thoughts.
thoughts, so it's the thoughts
Oh,
in
that's
your
smart.
mind that really bring your emotions low and affect your joy. And the idea is
Wow.
this: is that if an ant crawls up your leg, then you can flick one ant off your leg. But if you stand on an ant nest and you have ants swarming up you, you're in trouble. And one of the things that really does affect our joy is ants that run through our mind, automated negative thoughts. And every time that thought comes in, it robs us of joy.
Yeah.
It brings us low. It affects us
Yeah.
in a negative way. And
Hmm.
I remember one time talking to a friend, and he said to me this. He said, with ants, the best thing to do is not to ignore them in your mind, but to actually put a pin in your diary and say, I haven't got time to process that thought now, but at 3 o'clock this afternoon, I'm going to diary it for 10 minutes and I'm going to think about it then. And he said, and what it taught me is this, is that by doing that, by taking control of my thinking and taking control of my diary, I was taking control of those negative thoughts. I was saying, I'm going to think about you then. And at 3 o'clock in the
Yep.
afternoon, when I started to think about it, my emotions weren't feeling low. I wasn't feeling sad. I wasn't feeling depressed by it. I was
Yeah.
actually able to think my way clear because I was taking control of
Yep.
those automated negative thoughts.
Yep.
So I think that certainly really helped me last year.
Oh, that
Put
is.
a pin in the diary. 3 o'clock is when I'm going to think about it, and then there's no emotion and negative emotion associated with that thinking pattern.
Yep. That is
Yeah,
good. Hey, man, that's all I needed.
good to talk to you.
No, you need.
Good to see you.
It's funny, man. You hear one thing that you grips you, and you're like, "All right, I'm good." So, hey,
Yeah,
man, I love you. I appreciate
love you,
you,
Ray.
and thanks so much for your time. I can't wait to get you back over here again. So,
Looking
although I
forward to
think
seeing
we're
you.
coming your direction at some point.
Yeah, I'm looking
So,
forward to that too. It's gonna be great.
that's right. Keep the hat, baby. Thanks. Have a good day, man. Love you, bud.
Take care, Ray.
Okay,
Love
say
you.
hi to Sophie. Catch you later. Bye.